Hello guys, welcome back to the series. Today is all about Generation 4. If you haven't done so, I'd recommend watching the previous videos in this series. I'll have the playlist linked below for your convenience. Anyway, enough waffle. I think it's time we fly straight into what comes next. Okay, so Generation 4 began with the release of Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Pearl on September 28, 2006 in Japan and Taiwan, April 22nd, 2007 in North America, June 21st, 2007 in Australia, July 27th, 2007 in Europe, and February 14th, 2008 in South Korea. A lot of dates there. So before we dive into the games, let's quickly go through the development of Diamond and Pearl. Nintendo at the time decided to do a strange move with the GBA. Only releasing in 2001, they decided to ship a new handheld console, that being the DS, or the dual screen. Honestly, bit of a weird move, but Nintendo does do weird stuff from time to time, only giving the GBA a 3-year lifespan. Game Freak, after releasing Fire Red and Leaf Green, Game Freak's main dev team went straight into developing a game for the DS, with the side team developing Emerald, releasing only a few months before the DS's launch. Honestly, it's kind of strange Nintendo didn't port Emerald to the DS, as it would just be free money. Anyway, led again by Masuda, many faces returned from the Ruby Sapphire team, and a certain someone in the dev team was rising the ranks. With Masuda being pulled around all over Pokemon, someone else needed to be there in the future to help direct these games. Shigeru Omori, whom now is the main director for quite a few of the Pokemon games, got his first shot at being a lead game designer on Diamond and Pearl, truly showing what he was able to make. As with previous games he's worked on, he was either led by another lead designer or worked on remaking a game. So Diamond and Pearl was his first true chance at making a game fully, and in the future he will play a much larger role in the franchise. The music team also returned with Masuda, Ichinose and Aoki, with a new face, Hitomi Sato, joining for music. So as the DS has two whole screens, the game was designed around using both them screens. The second screen was now used for displaying actions for in battle, a setup that I think works really well, and to me is still the definitive layout for Pokemon, as separating the two screens allows for the game to not look so cluttered during battle. In addition to the dual screens the DS brought, it also brought Wi-Fi connectivity. So Game Freak now allow players to connect either locally or globally for battling, trading, or using the new GTS, which allowed for basically a Pokemon trading market to be created. The DS GBA slot also allowed Game Freak to add more to the game by having Pokemon locked behind having a certain GBA game plugged into the slot. The game retained the 2D style, with it becoming more complex compared to the Gen 3 games, and this is where the game started to look really good in my opinion. If the Gen 3 games were a simple art style, then Gen 4 games looked great and had a lot of style to them. Other than that, not much on development. It appeared to have gone smoothly up to the release, with the games releasing to critical acclaim, with both games having an 85% on Metacritic. However, some publications complained the games looked too simple and too much like the GBA games. Come on man, yeah, the DS was capable of more. It can play Mario 64, but genuinely, these games look amazing. The sprite work is outstanding, not only the characters, but the world as well. All the weather and buildings just look great, and the next game, Game Freak would really flex this. The game sold really well, with 14 million copies being sold overall, with millions of copies being sold in its first few weeks. A bit of a decrease there though, huh? I can't even say it was due to the poor sale of the DS, as the DS sold really well throughout its entire life. I guess this just shows a waning interest in the games overall. Anywho, back to the games. If you want to know, Diamond and Pearl are my first Pokemon games. more specifically Pokemon Diamond, so a lot of the content in Generation 4 I'm very nostalgic of, but I'll try to be fair with the games. I will now list everything I love about Diamond and Pearl. Let's start with the overall Pokemon design. Diamond and Pearl's new Pokemon to me mirrors more of Gold and Silver's editions a lot, as older Pokemon received new evolutions or pre-evolutions, and a lot of the new Pokemon look really good in my opinion. We received 107 new Pokemon, bringing the total up to now 493, and with new Pokemon, you know what that means. Welcome back to Croc's Top 5. This week is Sinnoh, let's get into it. Number 5, Dialga, my all-time favourite legendary. An amazing trio concept, type, design and lore, I love this guy. Number 4, Dusknoir, super interesting design and an evolution to a line that really benefited from it. Number 3, Luxray, on everyone's Sinnoh team and just an MVP of any team. Number 2, Torterra, my favourite starter ever, looks great, fun typing and just a big guy. And number 1, Gallade. I love Gallade, my second favourite just behind Metagross, a Pokemon I've used over many years on multiple teams and just love him every time. An amazing type, moveset and a great utility Pokemon. And again, like Generation 3, this one was really hard with a few competing for the last top spots on this list. I love almost all Pokemon from this generation. Anyway, let's move on. The game's gyms are all pretty fun, providing good fights with some decent challenge along the way. The Evil Team are tough at times as well, and the Elite Four have some interesting type choices in there, with a Bug, Ground, Fire and Psychic type. And of course, Cynthia is a massive highlight of this game, being a very big challenge, especially for a young child. Her team is pretty good, with all members of her team providing some sort of challenge, and her ace is an absolute nightmare. A truly good champion. The game's also made a massive change to how battles work, and this would buff certain Pokemon greatly. This generation saw the physical special split occur. For Generation 4, all types were either assigned special or physical. All moves with this type would then be special or physical depending on the type. So for example, all fire types moves were special and all fighting type moves were physical. Even moves like Fire Punch or Blaze Kick, physical sounding moves, were special. And on the flip side, a move like Hyper Beam, which sounds like a special move, was a physical move. So certain Pokemon that had these moves but didn't have good stats to match it suffered greatly due to it. I'll give a quick example a lot of people go to. Hitmonchan is a Pokemon which has a good range of moves with a lot of coverage as it learns all the elemental punches. However, before Generation 3, all the elemental punches were special moves, and Hitmonchan's special attack was, let's say, not great. But in Generation 4, these moves were changed to physical, buffing Hitmonchan, making him a lot better in battle, and he greatly benefited from it. With Wi-Fi battling, the Pokemon VGC really got started in Generation 4. With the game seeing the first few big tournaments being played, and also the Battle Frontier returned, showing a very big focus on battling in these games. Alright, let's get back into the games. With any battle, you've got to have good music to go along with it. And I'm happy to say Generation 4 doesn't disappoint with its tracks. I don't know who, but someone was seriously cooking this generation. The game has some serious hits, such as the Galactic Commander battle theme, Lake theme, Dialga and Palkia's theme, the Lake Trio theme, Sunny Shore City theme, Route 228 theme, Cynthia's battle theme, and my personal favorite, Eterna Forest. And Pokemon from now on, the music would always be top tier, being the best part of most games in the future. Diamond and Pearl also saw the return of contests from Ruby, Sapphire and Emerald. They aren't changed too much, still following the general idea of what was set in the past, and overall, this is a key aspect of Diamond and Pearl. They aren't that much different from the Gen 3 games. Yes, there were some large changes were made, and they looked quite a bit different, but they weren't a huge evolution of the games, and I'm fine with it. If Gen 3 was Game Freak finding the right formula for the game, in Gen 4, they perfected it in my opinion. No games truly surpassed Gen 4 games. Some additions, however, were 113 new moves, bringing the new total up to 467, 47 new abilities, bringing the total up to 123. The storage system in the PC was expanded to 18 boxes. The day-night system returned from Generation 2 and the days of the week as well. 4 new Pokeballs. The bag no longer had a limit on what you could hold. And that's all about worth noting. Nothing super different here. It all is either things that were from the past or just additions to certain things. However, Diamond and Pearl, even though I love them, are not perfect games by a long mile. The games are notoriously slow. For some reason, Game Freak made the HB tick down so slow when taking damage. In the beginning, this isn't so bad, but when your Pokemon start having HP in the triple digits, boy does it take a while sometimes. And many new Pokemon like Electivire and Dusknoir were gated to the post-game as the items used to evolve them could not be obtained before the post-game. This also meant gym leaders and Elite Four members wouldn't use certain Pokemon. For example, Flint didn't use many of the new Fire-type Pokemon, instead having a Steelix, Drifblim and Lopunny. He's a Fire-type trainer by the way, and he has 2 Fire types. These major issues, however, would be fixed when Game Freak would release the 3rd version of Sinnoh. On September 13th, 2008, Pokemon Platinum would hit shelves.
Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Pearl were just the beginning. You can explore a new world in the Sinnoh region, discover powerful new forms of Pokemon, and experience the all-new Wi-Fi Plaza and Battle Frontier. The epic new adventure arrives March 22nd. You can reserve a copy of Pokemon Platinum and get this limited edition Giratina Origin Form figure. Deposit may be required. Pokemon Platinum, rated E for everyone.
Pokemon Platinum wasn't directed by Masuda, but by Takeshi Kawachimaru. Pokemon Platinum added quite a bit to Sinnoh and improved a lot. A new area called the Wi-Fi Plaza was added with new minigames to play with others. The Versus Recorder allowed players to record their battles in the Battle Frontier, or Wi-Fi battles, so players could now show each other games and make recording a bit easier. The GTS now had an email feature that emailed players when a trade was completed. However, this was only in Japan. Outside of Japan, it would be sent to the Wii's message board system. Some Pokemon obtained new forms, such as Giratina's new Origin form and Shaman's new Sky form, and all of Rotom's new forms. Pokemon such as Gliscor and Electivire could be obtained much earlier in the game now, as the trade evolution items could be obtained before the post-game. Older legendary trios were added into the game, being the legendary birds and the Regigigas trio. A few story changes were made, with a few new characters being added, that being Looker and Charon. The world sprite art and character art was changed quite a bit. Enemy trainer teams were changed a lot, with all Elite Four member teams being completely revamped, all receiving new ace Pokemon. And the Distortion world was added with Giratina. So quite a bit changed, making Platinum the best version of the Sinnoh games. And with that price now, oh boy. The games received an 84 Metacritic, so pretty good, and critics commented that the improvements made did make the game a worthy upgrade, as the new content received did make the double dip worth it. The game sold pretty well as well, with millions being sold in its first week, and as of March 31st, 2010, Pokemon Platinum sold 7.6 million copies, pretty good for a 3rd version, and it sold better than both Crystal and Emerald. So overall, the Sinnoh game sold 21 million copies. Decent. I love Platinum and Diamond and Pearl, and they are my favorite Pokemon games ever. Yes, they are my first Pokemon games, but I've played all Pokemon games, and I always keep coming back to these games. I just love everything about them. Even the theme of these games, with myths and legends and gods being heavily focused on, is super interesting to me, and no Pokemon game would match the level of world building and storytelling, except for one. However, a certain game does come close to dethroning them, and in my opinion is the perfect starter game for someone wanting to get into Pokemon. Releasing on September 13th, 2009, Pokemon Gold and Silver would be remade into
Gold and Soul Silver versions. Return to the scenic Johto region. Travel with your favorite Pokémon. Experience the enhanced gameplay. New adventures and epic battles await you. Legendary Pokémon, rise again. Pokémon Heart Gold and Soul Silver version.
God damn, these games are amazing. They are what I consider to be the perfect remake of a game in general, and with Johto having so much content already, this game was a no-brainer. Let's look at what Heart Gold and Soul Silver added and improved from Gold and Silver. So all changes made to the Pokemon formula were added into this game, with all sprite, art and music all receiving a new coat of paint. The game also made sure to include features within Crystal, being the story elements with Yucine and Suicune. Some new additions was a new minigame called Pokeathlon, which utilised the DS's touchscreen, having your Pokemon compete in events basically. They were just mini-games, but they were fun. The game corner was completely changed in some regions, from the slot machines to a new game called Voltorb Flip. A great time waster and a good way to get some good items. An item which allowed you to change to the classic sounds, emulating the sounds from Gold and Silver was added. The Safari Zone was expanded with a way to customize the layout to help you find the Pokemon that you truly wanted to catch. Follow Pokemon returned from Yellow, with all Pokemon now having walking animations to follow the player. And a big addition was the Pokewalker, which is a pedometer that players could transfer a Pokemon to and earn watts from walking and exchange these watts for items in-game. So quite a bit of change here, as the games are Generation 4 games being released 10 years after Gold and Silver. The games received an 87 on Metacritic, with many sites praising the content, saying how the game was not surprising at all. There was apparently nothing in the game that truly wowed them, but a lot was added. Quite a few new side quests were added to do in the game, such as when beating Red, both Oak and Steven Stone would give you a starter from both Kanto and Hoenn. Groudon, Kyogre and Rayquaza could be obtained as well. Latios were added as roaming Pokemon in Kanto when the National Dex is obtained. And with the roaming beasts, birds, Mewtwo, there is quite a bit to do in Kanto and Johto. Other than that, the games are basically Pokemon Crystal updated to Gen 4 mechanics, with some new bits and bobs and a fresh coat of paint, but they are perfect, and nothing really needs to be improved about them. Maybe the leveling issues, but that is a general Johto issue. Even if you've played Gold and Silver, I think Heart Gold and Soul Silver are worth replaying, as they changed so much and seeing Johto in the new visuals is really nice. The game also sold really well, with millions in the first weeks, in all regions around the world, with the game reaching a total sale amount of 12.72 million copies sold. So overall, all 5 Generation 4 Pokemon games are top tier, and in my opinion the best Pokemon games ever made. With some of the best side content, battles and Pokemon variety, it makes them the most fun games to replay over and over again. Okay, I think that explains the mainline Pokemon games enough. Let's get into the spin-offs this generation. With the launch of the Wii and the DS, this is where most of the games ended up being on. Like the previous, we got another Battle Arena game, with Pokemon Battle Revolution, developed by Genius Sonority again. And I love Battle Revolution. Yes, it doesn't have the story mode of the Colosseum games, but it focused more on providing more battle variety with more fun modes to play with, as each Colosseum in the game had unique mechanics or rules to it. Single, double, roulette battles, or level restrictions. Each made playing through the simple campaign pretty enjoyable. Basically, the campaign was just beat each Colosseum. The game allowed you to transfer Pokemon from Pokemon Diamond, Pearl and Platinum. So take the team you've grown to love and now battle with them even more. If you didn't have a game to transfer, you could also use rental Pokemon, which are okay, with 36 Pokemon being available. And they all have decent movesets, but transfer Pokemon really do elevate this game. With winning battles, you earn points, which can buy items in the DS games or buy items in Battle Revolution, which were mainly customization for your character. And the shop for the items in Battle Revolution for Diamond, Pearl and Platinum included a lot of really good items and the evolution items for Pokemon. The music also banged in this game, with so many great themes being made for this game, and it's kind of a shame these haven't been brought back for any future games. These games are also allowed for Wi-Fi battles, having a major issue though. The game didn't have any mode for official VGC rules, so like all Pokemon games, legendaries ran rampant, many people abusing them. Did critics like this game though? No, due to the aforementioned absence of the story mode, many didn't understand the point of the game and wondered why the game existed. And going from the 2 GameCube games, yeah, I get it why. I really wish we still got these kind of games, as they are really good games overall, but I guess Pokemon didn't see a value in them after all, as this was the last one we would receive. Okay, enough of my sadness. We've got 3 whole Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games with Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Time, Explorers of Darkness, and Explorers of Sky. All pretty good and honestly really deserving of some sort of port or remake for the Switch, as it's a shame that these games are stuck on the DS. We also saw the start of Pokemon Rumble, a simple beat 'em up game, and I really like Rumble. I really don't know why, I just like how simple it is, and it would continue on for a bit after this game. We've got 2 new Pokemon Ranger games with Shadows of Almia and Guardian Signs, both really fun games, expanding what the previous did, and I really like the Ranger games overall. I genuinely wish these games would have continued, but this was the last set of Pokemon Ranger games we would get, and I think this was a massive detriment to Pokemon, as they have such a super unique gameplay loop. We also got Pokepark Wii, a really simple game that is heavily targeted towards kids, which has Pikachu run around making friends basically. I really like this game, I don't know why. I guess 3D Pokemon games back then were just really fun, and if they made another, I would be lying if I said I wouldn't pick it up. And like Pokemon Box Ruby and Sapphire, we got Pokemon Ranch, still just as useless, and it used the Pokemon Rumble models for the game. One thing however they were good for was obtaining Mew and Fione, but other than that, the games kind of just asked you to complete the decks with your version of either Diamond, Pearl, or Platinum, and that does it for the spin-offs. Overall, all pretty good and all worth giving a shot if you like Pokemon, but we are seeing a slight decrease in the spread of games. The TCG received 16 new expansions, and I am not going to list them all, but here they all are with the Diamond and Pearl series, Platinum series, the heartgold, soulsilver series, and the Call of Legends series. Too many for me to list, I cannot be bothered. Pause if you want to read them, and if you are interested in them, you can look them up. The manga continued with the Diamond and Pearl arc from volume 30 to 38, the Platinum arc from volume 38 to 40, and the heartgold soulsilver arc from volume 41 to 43. Again, the manga, I haven't read it personally, but it seems people really did like it overall, as it didn't seem to decrease in quality overall at the moment. Merch and other collabs were still running strong with these games. I remember a lot of toys being in stores for these games when they launched, and a lot of other official merchandise being released with these games as well. The anime got 4 seasons this generation as well: Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, Pokemon DP Battle Dimensions, Pokemon DP Galactic Battle, and Pokemon DP Sinnoh League Victors. This is one of the ones I've watched the most, with all the music being top tier from these ones, and iconic in my eyes. However, the end of the Diamond and Pearl series would see a long-running character, Croc, leave the show, and this was a massive blow to the anime to me personally. I really like Brock as a character, and he's a really good comic relief character. The female companions and secondary companions Ash had up to this point all served a good purpose, having Ash interact with different things in the Pokemon world, such as the contests with Dawn. But Brock to me was just as big of a character as Ash, and in the future series, they would need to fill his shoes, or Ash would have to carry the season completely. And if you want me to be honest, I think this is when Ash's journey should have ended, as it felt the most natural. Honestly, watching from the first season to now where Ash was, it started to become a bit stale and his character started to feel like it was just repeating itself. What my 2 cents, I kind of think they should have done what they did with X and Y in the Sinnoh series, have him win the league in the Sinnoh, and then Generation 5, which was kind of meant to be a reboot of the series, they should have started fresh, but I will talk about the issues in the next videos. With the anime, movies also must come as well. This included 4 movies: The Rise of Darkrai in 2007, Giratina and the Sky Warrior in 2008, Arceus and the Jewel of Life in 2009, and Zoroark Master of Illusions in 2010, teasing Generation 5 with Zoroark appearing. These movies, they are alright. The same complaints as the movies before in the last generations. I just don't think the anime cast worked that well in movie form. I think the movies should have just had original characters and really dug more into the Pokemon world, not with like additions and side stories to the long-running anime. But hey, what do I know? And well, on September 17th, 2010, Generation 4 would come to an end. Pokemon's 4th generation is one of the longest, with a lot of content being released during this time. In addition to this is when many people believe the series peaked, only going downhill from here. For me, Generation 4 is a generation I love a lot, the games being my favorite of all time, the anime also being really good, and a lot of the spin-offs as well being top tier. I look back with a lot of fondness on Generation 4, as this is the generation I revisit the most, replaying the games constantly. And on September 18th, 2010, Pokemon's 5th generation would begin. Hey, thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like and subscribe. I plan on getting Generation 5 done relatively soon. Again, thank you for watching, see you around, Crocodile.